Welcome to the Hangin Banners podcast with your hosts, Tyler Witt.
How about this block here by Tyler Witt? You're going to see him get out in front, and he's going to get a key block that springs this play.
Jack Coachman.
And here he is, having the time of his life.
And Ryan Sartori.
Maybe short, but he's thick.
That's thick with two C's at the end.
And welcome back. It's episode 19 of the Hangin Banners podcast. I'm Ryan Sartori, my co-host Jack Coachman. I mean, you're technically a co-owner of the podcast. I don't know why I say co-host, but it's a 33 project around here, Jack. And the final 33 is not here today. No Tyler Witt.
No, that's all right. I co-owner does sound more official, but I don't think I have any like stocks or investments, so I guess I'm just co-host, right? I'm just a piece of the machine.
Sure. You're part of the brain trust. You're part of the glue that keeps this thing together.
Sure.
And you keep us on schedule because I was late putting this thing together today, and you were like, "Hey, man, what are we doing?" So
I mean,
we're
you're
here.
always the first one in. No, don't put that. You're a good captain of the ship.
Will you just take a compliment?
Nope, never.
I think it actually is National Compliment Day.
There's no way. You have to have just made that up.
I swear to God.
Compliment Day.
Listen,
January 24th. It's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow. That's right.
Yeah. So
See,
I'm not taking any compliments.
As a producer on like a morning radio show, I've started to become more aware of all like the little trivial holiday things, right? Like yesterday was National Pie Day, but also that's March 16th. March 14th, you're right. But I think that's International Pie Day.
See, I've looked into this before, and the problem is you could look at some websites or like online digital calendars, and they'll say the same thing but for different days on not real holidays. So tomorrow on one website could be wave hi to your neighbor's day, and then in 3 weeks a different place would tell you it's wave hi to your neighbor's day. So I don't really buy in, but I guess that's good content for those of you who need it on a daily basis.
And it's needed on a daily basis. Last Friday we had National Hat Day, and so we just wore wacky hats, and my co-host Steve looked eerily similar to Sean Connery with the hat that he chose, and then I wore a Cubs hard hat. So it's like, the day before that, we made popcorn because it was National Popcorn Day.
Oh, so you guys do something all the time.
We try to incorporate it because it's just easy content, right? Like,
so today, I don't actually know what the internet would tell you, but I'm noticing since it's January 23rd, today should be one of the easiest days. As easy as 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, how about that? I honestly just thought of that because your silly compliment day thing, but that's the best we got.
You know what I always get caught up in is the 23-23. I'd never even look 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, 1, 23, 23.
Yeah. Well, this is a fun start to the show.
First
Welcome
12,
in, everybody.
23s? Nice.
Welcome in. The show, I forgot to mention last week, is officially old enough to be able to vote. Officially old enough to be able to purchase tobacco products.
I would be careful with kids because we are about 4 or 5. What are we? 6 months old? I don't want a 6-month-old rolling into like a corner store. Yeah, can I get some cigarettes?
In terms of episode length, we are now 19 episodes old. So we're starting to climb up there. Soon we'll be talking about whether or not we're going to sign our life away to the military and such. And I think that's what happens, right? We're going to be going to college soon. And we might even be in college at 19 years old. Does that make me out of touch with?
Wait, 19 is normal college age, right?
Right? Isn't that freshman?
I don't know, but I think that's right.
Either way,
maybe we both had different experience.
We're on the doorstep of being able to drink on this podcast. Notice nobody's ever had alcoholic beverages. Always the energy drinks I'm always sipping. But once we get to episode 21, I'll be boozing on the podcast. It should be fun.
Oh yeah, that would be fun. Let's do what is that? In 2 weeks. So that's going to be this weekend is conference championships in NFL, and then the next weekend is Pro Bowl, and there's nothing going on. So let's have a drinking show.
Let's have a drinking show.
There we go. I wonder if Tyler Witt would be interested in that. I have no idea.
Also, smoke him if you got him, because I think 21 you can go to the dispo, right?
Is it 21? Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I don't know. I thought it was 18. Either way, we'll figure something fun.
What a great start to the show. All right. It's Hangin Banners. You already know. And again, we got to get into this show. We start it all the time with Count Your Wins. It's a segment dedicated to the best part of our week. We bring it to the table. It can be personal. It can be sports related. It can also be pop culture related. And Jack Coachman leads us off.
Yeah, so I guess mine is more personal, but in a way pop culture related. And it's a new form of, I don't want to call it fantasy because it's not fantasy sports. It's a thing called the Music League. Sartar, you and I have talked about this briefly.
Yeah.
I got invited to what's called a Music League. It's an app with the same name, Music League app or something like that. And essentially what you do is you get as many people as you want in it, however many friends, friends of friends, people you find on the internet. And your goal is to submit a song every interval of time. So I think ours runs on 2 or 3 days if it doesn't finish sooner than that. And there is a criteria by which you submit a song through Spotify. So our first round that we did, everybody had to submit a cover song. It doesn't matter what genre, what era, all you had to do was pick a song that you like that is a cover performance of an original performance, right? So like I submitted Ike and Tina Turner's Proud Mary, which is cover of the Creedence Clearwater Revival. And it's not super competitive, but then you vote on your favorites. You get 10 points to distribute, and you could put all of them on one. You could go 5 sets of 2, however you see fit. And then whoever has the most points after 5 rounds is the winner. Now, we're not playing for anything serious. We're just sort of dabbling in it. But the league has already doubled after 1 round. We've gone from 9 people to 18 people. And it's cool because you get to listen to, music that you might not otherwise hear because everybody has different tastes and everybody has different thoughts on categories and stuff. So that's been pretty cool for me. And I'd never heard of it before.
I haven't either. And you were telling me about this last night. Again, when we're not podcasting, we're typically playing PlayStation together. And stuff like this gets brought to the table. Very interesting. And yeah, like I know that you're a big music buff and you enjoy music, but like there's always something to discover when it comes to music. There's always new information. There's always new songs, new albums, new artists. There'll never be a shortage of it. And so to see like what your friends are listening to, if it is that small of a group and they're bringing those things to the table, it's always interesting to see that kind of stuff. I consider myself somewhat of a well-rounded individual as it relates to music, but like well-rounded to basically just the surface level of most genres. Like I know who's hot. I know who like kind of the joke people are in each genre, stuff like that. But this might be something I'm interested in. I don't know. Last night I was kind of hemming and hawing over it. Now that you bring it back to the table, I'm like, maybe I should be number 19, episode 19. I should be the 19th person in this music pool.
There you go. Well, I will say, and because I know this won't release until after our round ends, so if anybody is in the league and listens to this, what I submitted for this last round, guilty pleasures, which is a tougher thing to define. I think it said song that you really love, but you're kind of embarrassed to like, right? So that's the premise of the guilty pleasure. I submitted "I'll Be There for You" by the Rembrandts, which is actually a really fun song, but I do not like the TV show for which is the theme, which is Friends. But it's like super fun song, and I'm looking with most of the votes through in this round. I am sitting dead last in the group, and it's like, oh, that doesn't feel great. But that's the competitive nature. Is people are like, I don't like the Friends theme song, but listen to the full version. It's so cool.
But that's exactly it. Is I bet that you're losing points because it's the Friends theme song. If it were something else, then you might be in a better situation. But I probably wouldn't vote for it for that exact reason. Like I despise that show, so I wouldn't vote for it.
Yeah, well, that's what makes it guilty. I don't like Friends either.
Objectively, it is a terrible show. I've never even watched that much of it, but just from snippets and the few times that I've been subjected to the garbage, I have just been sitting there mouth agape, just like
it's just like 90s sitcom canned humor, right? I could sit through it if I had to, but in the 5 or 6 episodes I've seen, I had no moments where I felt impressed. All right, what do you got for a win?
Yeah, so it is a personal thing. I thought it was pretty interesting. So being a member of the Rockford media now, and being attached to somebody that is one of the biggest, if not the biggest icons of Rockford media. His name is Steve Summers, my co-host, right? So everybody always wants to talk to Steve, but now I am just kind of attached to him. And so cool things happen all the time because I'm associated with him. such as this past Friday, we were on TV
Whoa.
because relating back to the beginning of the show, it was National Disc Jockey Day.
Oh my gosh.
So one of the local television stations does an hour long, more or less like a variety hour, where they go and they just do entertaining things to keep your eyes locked on their station for another hour. And the weather guy Aaron Wilson was nice enough to come to the station. Aaron and Steve used to work together back in the day. He was nice enough to come to the station and put Steve on TV, which was captivating television. He talked about like old school radio and how they used to cut film and cut all that, the grease pens and the X-Acto knives and whatever, and playing it back on the radio, picking all the songs and CDs and stuff. And you talked about how much more involved it used to be. It was educational for me and educational, I'm sure, for everybody else that watched, as they got a behind scenes look with basically Neil Armstrong inside of a spaceship. And then they talked to me, and it was my first time ever on TV, and I shit the bed a little bit.
Oh no.
Not super bad.
No.
The win is that I was on TV. The kind of vague grayness to the rest of it is that it was just kind of okay. So they're asking me questions like, oh, how long have you been doing this? Whatever. Why do you love it? How do you like Rockford? Which is a loaded question. But I've loved it so far. So I said, I love Rockford. I love being here. It's awesome. And then he goes, why? Which is a shitty question to ask somebody who is very clearly just trying to be promotional for their station. Because what happens if I don't have a great answer? People are going to be like, we hate this guy forever.
You got caught in a lie. Yeah.
Yeah, we hate this guy forever. Thank God. And I mean, it was an honest answer. But thank God that it was an honest answer, because it could have been much to my detriment. It was just one of those things where there was kind of a lot of and trying to look normal on TV. The first thing I did when the camera came on, he was like, oh, we're with Ryan Sartori, as I started doing this.
What, with your hands?
Yeah, it was a joke off of the Talladega Nights where he's like, I gotta be honest with you,
I don't know what to do with my hands.
It was like
oh man.
So a very cool moment for sure. I'm
picturing, did you ever see the YouTube video? It had to be from like a decade ago. It's an interview with like a kid at an amusement park, and the first thing he says is, well, I've never ever been on live television before. I'm like, that's all I can picture.
Yeah,
you're like,
it's the apparently kid. It's the apparently kid. Apparently, I've never been.
That's all that's going through my head. I'm like, oh no, this was you with like Legends of Rockford Media on TV.
Well, it's funny because so they had two breaks. They had a break at 9 and a break at 9:30, and they talked to Steve first, and then we had essentially 20 minutes in between their breaks. So we were like, well, we have a break at 9:20, so you're going to come on the radio with us while we wait to go back on TV. And they opened up we're opening up the break and whatever, and Steve's talking with Aaron from the television station, and Aaron says, Steve, how long have you been on radio? Steve says 42 years. And he's like, Aaron, how long have you been doing?
Sounds like we'll be back in a moment. I'm assuming this is an internet-related problem. And I don't know how long Aaron was on TV.
I hate this.
So
I hate this stupid mouse. Sometimes there's a little back on the mouse.
Oh, I filled for you. We're live.
Well, now I look like I'm stuck in Mexico in like a shitty there we go. It's starting to even out.
The like oversaturated yellow.
Yeah. Try to clean it out. Anyway, Aaron has been doing TV for 25 years.
Okay.
So then they look at me and they're like, hey, Ryan, how long have you been in radio? And I was like, couple months. It was just kind of a funny moment. So that was
how long have you been alive? We've got 42 years and 25 years here. Where do you stand on that?
When you I should have looked at the TV guy. So when you started doing TV, I was a year old. So that was my win for the week. Very fun. My mom got to see me. My girlfriend got to see me on TV, which is always a cool thing. Something that doesn't happen for everybody. So I count that as a win.
Quick question for you.
Yes.
Seeing that you've got a radio guy on TV and you had a TV guy on radio, Which do you think is the more awkward situation? Somebody who goes on TV and like is physically not used to being on TV, or somebody who goes on radio and is not understanding the flow of radio? Like, which do you think is more awkward as a viewer or listener?
I think it's kind of it depends on the person, but I think it's definitely harder being a radio person going on TV because there is a certain amount of acting and body control that you have to have,
Mm,
right? Like when I'm sitting here, right, and we're podcasting, like I might be screwing with a pen, I might be, taking it apart and putting it back together again, even while I'm talking to you. And I do that when I'm on the radio. Like I'll just be, having a conversation and talking, and it doesn't matter what I'm doing as long as my voice is controlled, as long as I'm being engaging, etc. When you're on TV, you're acting a little bit, both physically and with your voice. So
right.
like
That's true.
I
That's
think
true.
for me it was kind of a weird thing to be on TV and like trying to act like, oh yes, hello, I am.
Like new muscle groups.
Yeah, exactly. It's a muscle I'd never
Oh, how
trained
about
before.
that?
So it
Or
was,
the three of us on this show, we're all gym rats.
yeah. Isn't that like isn't there a bit about that where like if you're describing white players, you call them gym
Oh
rats?
yeah. Yep. Yep.
Class act is a black head coach. Yeah.
Hard worker and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
No,
yeah,
there's
yeah.
a lot
There's
of
a
those.
there's a bit on that. Anyway, a very cool moment for me this past week. But now we move on to intercepted at the goal line, which is a worst of the week segment where we talk about the same thing but opposite, right? So we talk about the best, we talk about the worst. It can be personal, sports related, or pop culture. Jack, I don't know if you've seen this or not, but
Mhm.
Bethune-Cookman University
Yeah.
and
Well, I mean, I've heard of that.
their relationship with Ed Reed is very quickly devolving. So Ed Reed was
Really?
hired as the head football coach at Bethune-Cookman University, but the paperwork was never finalized. And Ed Reed was at the campus and was having to do. I don't exactly know all the details, but I know that in broad strokes, he was criticizing the university, and some of the things that were promised to him to become the head football coach were not being fulfilled. And so he was on social media being Ed Reed and saying some things that the university didn't like. And so now they are fully backing out of the agreement with Ed Reed to be their head football coach.
Oh yeah.
And
I'm
the
reading this.
student body at Bethune-Cookman is now protesting and such to make sure that the NFL Hall of Famer becomes their head coach.
Well, it looks like some of the issues that the university took were like use of profane language and slanderous remarks about the school, but not to like a super flagrant end. Which, if I were a student, I would think, yeah, I think you don't even have to go so far as like protected speech and things like that. But just the idea of, wait a second, how many college football coaches do you think swear? Like, we're not going to hire this guy because he swore on social media. Like, just because everybody outwardly facing in like southern universities is talking about how like their team loves God and everything, that doesn't mean when they're in training camp that they are not cussing up a storm, right? I haven't been on the field, so I can't promise that that's true, but I would believe it,
Yeah, well, and like let's think about the profanity laced speech that was just circulating on Twitter from Kirby Smart.
right? And he's how many places has he coached? More than
How many
one.
times has Nick Saban cursed out his players? And that is like the righteous hand of God guy, right? Like Nick Saban is always like God first, God first. Like there's so many people like that. It doesn't make any sense. And I think one of the conspiracy theories out there is that he's going to end up being the defensive coordinator with D'Amico Ryans, wherever D'Amico Ryans ends up.
Oh, I haven't heard that, but I guess yeah, maybe you figure D'Amico Ryan's getting a job somewhere, whether it's NFL or college.
I think they probably played together that last year of Ed Reed's career where he played in Houston.
Yeah, that would check
Um,
out.
Yeah. So I just thought that whole situation, now, it doesn't have to fall specifically on Ed Reed or Bethune-Cookman, but that situation in general was kind of intercepted at the goal line because it seems like a slam dunk hire for a low tier D1 school to get a guy like that in the door, like kind of going down that same path of Deion Sanders as a head coach at Jackson State, then moving up. Ed Reed might have been the next guy of that mold, but alas.
Yeah, as I think about it though, I mean not that I'm changing my tune on it entirely, but I guess we should be commending more a program that does try and stick to whatever values it wants to adhere, right? Is okay, compared to like Georgia or Alabama, like these are already organizations that we consider to be just like money guzzling sellouts where the machine is bigger than any one player. They don't actually care about the people. So you would ideally want, this is the appeal sometimes too to people in like D2, D3, or just like low D1 sports is, I guess there's an element of if that's the code of conduct that they strictly follow, then so be it. But again, I would be very surprised for any major academic institution in the country to strictly adhere to their code of conduct across the board.
Yeah, well, it's kind of Machiavellian in that way, right? Like
Right.
whatever means serves their end, they'll do it.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, that's an
Intercepted
interesting
at
one.
the
I hadn't
goal
seen
line.
that. I hadn't seen that. All right. Well, I'll pivot. It's people protesting, but this time I think at least I'm on the side of the not protesters. I'm on the side of the protested against. This has to do with Walt Disney World. And the larger problem that I would say is intercepted at the goal line is people complaining about things that they don't actually really care about. And we can see right through it. There has been more hullabaloo in the last couple days as we're approaching more advanced stages of Walt Disney World changing Splash Mountain. I don't know if you heard about this a while back.
Oh yeah.
It has resurfaced, and people are. I saw Splash Mountain was trending. I saw Song of the South was trending, and it's this erasure of childhood memories. And everyone's like, how dare they're going to change Splash Mountain into Tiana's Bayou Adventure. So instead of it being a ride inspired by Song of the South, which is generally not distributed, seen anywhere because it was racist, they want to go with The Princess and the Frog as their theme, which was a very popular movie from much more recently that caters to a wide variety of audiences and ages, and people can't stand the change.
And celebrates real culture.
Yes, it's supposed to be like New Orleans Bayou Mardi Gras themed. Like Mardi Gras is objectively, whether you ever want to be a part of it or not, one of the most fun things that happens in the country, right? Like in a year, who's anti Mardi Gras? We're getting a ride
Nobody.
based on that. Yeah,
You're getting drunk. You're getting and not in the movie Princess and the Frog, but like Mardi Gras and
like
an
actual
adult real scale. You're getting booze. You're getting beads. You're getting boobs. Like
the three Bs.
it's the killer bees, right? From years past with the Steelers.
But no, I it's this, you can tell, and again, even within Disney World, they changed, Frog and Mr. Toad's wild ride to Winnie the Pooh. They changed the weird, creepy Norway Viking one that terrified me as a kid to Frozen. And people are like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, let's renovate things. But now, because, and I'm willing to say this because this is totally my impression, because this one might be rooted in anti-racist agendas, which I am personally on board with. I think that's why people feel the need to speak up more inflammatorily, and I can't stand it. I know you don't care, so stop complaining. You also have really no say in the matter. Just leave it.
Yeah. I mean, it's outrage culture, right? For
Right?
like the sake of a buzzword, that's what I'll call it. Like
It's
it's
crazy,
it's
man.
just outrage culture, and it's like the over manifestation of nostalgia, right? Like for whatever reason, is it Gen X and like their ties to like nostalgic childhood things, like they know it. Companies market it like I've not always understood how people are like, oh yeah, I'll just keep consuming this garbage because it's something that I remember from when I was a kid. Right? Like Splash Mountain is still gonna be Splash Mountain. It's
It's the
still
exact
gonna
same
be the
ride.
ride.
Yes,
But
they're changing almost
instead,
nothing.
you're not going to get like a ragtimey uh menstrual show, but with animals. Like you're going to get a highly grossing movie that celebrates culture and also expands on diversity within the park
And fun music. Like again,
and
we're
representation too. Yeah,
New
super
Orleans.
fun music.
It's New Orleans that like
Yeah,
is a party city. I
right.
just it's kind of old news, but it's resurfaced and it'll probably come back again when everything. I think it's set to like officially open in a month or so. Maybe that's what it was.
Good.
But yeah, it like it should
Good.
be a nothing. But this also is closely juxtaposed with like what you were talking about. I think is valid. Like if your school that you're paying tons of money is going to do something that you feel like is unfair or unjust, like by all means speak up and like communicate with people and organize or whatever. So there are times where speak your truth. I just don't like when people pretend they're speaking their truth and they're just making things up.
Dude, I saw on TikTok the same thing popped up, and this lady was upset because she had named her kid after the ride. Her
What?
kid's name is not Splash Mountain, but her
Oh.
kid's name is Briar.
Breer? Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
Briar is how they pronounced it. Spelled the same way, pronounced
yeah.
differently. And
Yeah,
she was very upset
Oh, no.
that her child
Oh,
would no
gosh.
longer know her namesake.
All right, so I don't care like an ounce about this lady. I can already tell you. How is that kid gonna grow up? What do you do if you're that kid and you're like, I'm named after the now defunct ride from Disney World that was spawned by racism?
And this is
How do you grow up?
This is a completely different conversation altogether. But people today, our age and just a scotch older, right, are naming their kids the most bonkers fucking shit in the world. They are.
Oh,
You
we
can
gotta-
name
we
your
gotta come
kid
up with
after
these.
any body of water. There are kids named River. There are kids named Lakeland. There are kids named Ocean. There are kids named, I'm sure, fucking Pond somewhere. But like Puddle. Like I don't.
Puddle.
Michael Jackson named his kid Blanket.
So
And that's not so far out of the box that it's specifically weird. Like I'm sure there is more than one person in this world named Blanket. People are getting dumb names, and it's going to have a direct impact on the world in like 15 years when these kids go to get jobs, and nobody wants to hire your kid that you named like Ulysses or something stupid.
all right, we're on a 4th degree of separation. I'm keeping us on the topic. I was talking with a friend the other day, and this isn't about dumb names, but you know the thing with like how many athletes are named Jalen, specifically basketball players?
Yes.
That
Oh, yeah.
they're all named like because of Jalen Rose. Like he was like the first very popular Jalen, and that's why they're all like the same age. And if you go in the history books, there's not a ton of Jalen's, but it's like it was this transcendent. You could spell it all sorts of ways. At least there's theory behind it. I don't know if there's proof for that, but I was talking with somebody. We're probably not too far away from a ton of kids coming up named LeBron, right? I mean, he's
Yeah.
been like one of the biggest like people on the planet for what, 2 decades? We're gonna have some kids entering the league in like 10 to 12 years, and they're gonna be named LeBron or like Bron or something, right?
I'd like to see LeBron Stevenson.
LeBron. Oh no. Oh no. Lance's son.
Or LeBron West.
Oh gosh.
That was a deep cut. You almost didn't catch that was about to
Yeah.
launch it, did you?
Yeah, no, that well, my first thought went to Kanye, and I'm like, I don't get it. And then I'm like, oh wait, Delonte West, yeah.
Yeah. So that's just kind of my thing, my hill to die on is like I think that we overcomplicate children's names now. Name them like Chris and move on.
It's a
Like give them
spelling
a
too.
normal. Yeah,
Make it an intuitive spelling. None of these crazy like it's one sound, but it's like 9 letters.
that's the thing. That's the other thing is like why spell your kid's name like CRYSTE, right? And that's supposed to be Chris. Like it's just it doesn't make sense. Just name them Chris. So they can find a little license plate at one of the
Get
gift
a
shops
French
later in
magnet.
life.
I
Yeah.
visited the zoo. Krista.
All right. Great open to the show. Let's talk some football. We had super
Yeah.
divisional weekend, or maybe just regular division weekend.
Wait,
this
I have a
weekend.
question. Is it actually super divisional weekend? I've lost track.
No, I left it up
Okay.
there just for you.
Oh, that really got me.
I left it up there just for you. So lots to talk about because boy, was that a fun weekend of football. We had to start the weekend Jaguars and Chiefs, and it ended the way we thought it would end.
Yeah. I
Just
would say so.
about.
Right. Now Chiefs win. Jaguars didn't look horrendous.
I'm trying to pull up the scores, but my Bleacher Report app is freaking
Chiefs
out.
won 27-20. Chiefs won 27-20.
I'm looking at I all good. I'm kind of freaking out right now. We have a live moment on the podcast. Very cool. You see behind the curtain. Sometimes things aren't always what they're cracked up to be. So yeah, it was a rout. And I think it's going to be interesting moving forward now to see like Patrick Mahomes on a hobbled ankle. Is that going to impact him come next week? He missed almost a quarter and a half of football with a rolled ankle, and then came back and played the second half and just dominated the Jags. But now he's got to go up against a much more fierce and much more well-coached Cincinnati Bengals team.
And experience too, right? I mean, Bengals literally have been here before. They were in the Super Bowl last year. And Mahomes, it was interesting too, because you have this football mentality of I'm not leaving this game, especially in the playoffs. And I saw that the Chiefs basically told him, if you want to play in this game again, you have to go to the locker room. Because players probably know that if you go to the locker room, they might find worse things than if they find it in the blue tent or the sideline check or whatever. But he went back to the locker room because he wanted to come back in. And so obviously the Chiefs should probably still be favored just because they've been that team. And I mean, when you think about it from a betting perspective, like everyone's going to want to bet the Chiefs because if they're underdogs, then they're going to get a lot of money. And as it stands right now, they are 1-point home dogs to Cincinnati. But as we hear more about Mahomes' health, that could change. I will say that, I'm not the biggest Jaguars fan. I've said that in the past. And this actually proved a fantasy that I had in my head, which is who's better, Trevor Lawrence or Patrick Mahomes, but he can't run. And I was right. It was Patrick Mahomes, but he can't run.
No, I do think the Jaguars, for who they are, where they are in their process of becoming a good team again, I think that the Jaguars probably played a better game of football than a lot of people thought they would. Trevor Lawrence didn't throw 4 first-half interceptions, rather just 1. He had a touchdown to his name, 217 yards as well. And he spread it around. That's one thing that I will say about Trevor Lawrence in the playoffs this year is that he wasn't – I expected a lot of picking on Christian Kirk to be his guy and just going Christian Kirk a bunch of times. But no, I mean, he really did spread it out. You got 7 catches for Christian Kirk, 5 for Evan Ingram. Marvin Jones had 1. And also Zay Jones had 7 catches too. So like he's spreading it out a little bit, which is respectable.
Yeah, I think that's important with pretty much all of the teams that you see at this point. And the Jaguars did follow this model for the last half of the season, is pretty much have at least 3 guys that you can rely on. You can look at pretty much every box score from the last couple months. Ingram, Zay Jones, Christian Kirk in some order at the top. And I think that's one thing where the Chiefs have become a little interesting because they don't have that, right? They have Kelsey, and then you still don't see Juju as a number 1 receiver, and even as a number 2 option, he feels kind of weak. But then the drop after him is either Kadarius Toney or to Jerick McKinnon or to Marquez Valdes-Scantling.
Justin Watson.
So that, like, they have to be more of a spread offense because you have an alpha tight end and that's it. But every other team that's still hanging around in the playoffs, you look at the Bengals, who, we'll talk about them in a bit. They've got 3 reliable receivers and a decent tight end. The 49ers have 2 reliable receivers and a strong tight end. So that's one where an injured Mahomes, because he's a surprising threat on the ground, and I think people forget his running ability is so impressive, it's going to be tough if he can't move because they just don't have the weapons to keep up with some of these other teams.
Well, and I think that in a position moving forward now and looking at them playing the Bengals, like it probably becomes a really big game for Jerick McKinnon, who's had a gigantic impact on this offense. It probably becomes a big game for Isaiah Pacheco, who had a great game against Jacksonville, 12 carries for 95 yards. I mean, the guy is emerging very quickly as somebody you would want to have on your team. But yeah, I mean, you look at the receiving core, it's 9 guys, 10 guys that got a reception. 14 of them went to Travis Kelce. And when the second half broke down and you don't have Mahomes moving and running, like you don't try to reinvent the wheel. You just give it to the guy is going to make the catches and make the yak after the play too. So, not to sit on this game for too long because it was very much straightforward, but the Chiefs did what the Chiefs needed to do. Chad Henne, surprisingly, didn't blow it, actually threw a touchdown pass. He very much could have went in there for a quarter and a half and had a meltdown, but didn't. And so Chiefs moving on to the AFC Championship game. This is what, their 4th straight?
No, was it Chiefs Bengals last year?
Mm-hmm.
And then they made the 2 Super Bowls before that with a win and a loss. So yeah, this would be their 4th straight AFC Championship.
And so I think you can officially call this a dynasty for them if you haven't already before. The nightcap of Saturday was the biggest sleeper. I mean, Eagles Giants. This game was
Sleeper
Lop.
in that it was bad, not like ooh, if you watch this, you
Okay.
probably got a treat.
It was a snooze fest. Let me put it a different way because, I mean, all the way around, it was utter domination by the Eagles, who were up 28-0 before the Giants even sniffed points. And then it was just very, very much one-sided. Jalen Hurts had a phenomenal game and didn't even really have to do much. 154 yards, threw 2 touchdowns, and then Kenny Gainwell just said, I'm just going to have a day if you guys don't mind.
Yeah, I think this game really every game gets put under a microscope when it is necessary, and in the playoffs there are so few games to work with that we have to. But I don't think this game really gives us an indication at all of what this meant for the playoffs, right? The Eagles were supposed to win. They won. They looked good. But this isn't like oh man, the Eagles are hot. Oh my gosh, they're going to crush San Francisco or anything like that. It's just they played well in a game where they were supposed to play well. So it didn't really do much for me on the Eagles front. But with the Giants, I would like to hear more people talk about the Giants in the same breath that they bring up teams like Jacksonville, because I feel like even though they lost in very different ways, this is another team where you look and you go, man, if they really committed to like getting weapons for Daniel Jones to work with, he's not great, but like, let's see, because he's still throwing to Richie James and Isaiah Hodgins, which is not even at the Christian Kirk, Zay Jones level of quality. They had a pretty strong defense, and they were also in one of the toughest divisions with almost all 4 teams making the playoffs. So depending on the Daniel Jones arc and what the Giants want to do organizationally, I think they believe in Dabble as a coach enough that going forwards, they want to, see his vision through. But I would put the Giants on a watch list of, yeah, we're going to remember that they weren't that great, snuck into the playoffs and got blown out, but they might hang around for a few years.
Well, and that's kind of the interesting thing for them is now they're in a position going into this offseason, the Giants, where they've got to find money for Daniel Jones. And if they want to keep him around, they have to find money for a 25-year-old Saquon Barkley, who's going to have plenty of suitors this offseason. And so, yeah, they overachieved this year. I would say they even overachieved higher than what the Jags did when you look at the strength of schedule that they had.
So they had the same record in the end, or just about the same record. So
and they had a tougher schedule. So I think the Giants probably overachieved more than maybe any other team this year. But it will be interesting going into next year with all the holes that will be created and how they choose to fill them. Will we see the return of Geno Smith in New York? Will Daniel Jones be back there? Who knows? Do they draft a quarterback? I have no idea, but I would assume based on what kind of like mock drafts and things that I'm seeing right now, that it could be a situation where one of these wide receivers, the Quentin Johnstons and Jordan Addisons of the world, start to slide down, and they could be looking at one of those 2 guys, or maybe even a Jackson Smith and Jigba, and just say, screw it, we'll run with Jones as the guy for the next 3 to 4 years and see what happens.
Yeah. No, so that's my takeaways. Giants aren't as bad as we think they are based on this game, and the Eagles, I'm looking to see. I think that they would be under. Oh no, they're 2.5-point favorites against San Francisco. So that, well, spoiler alert: San Francisco won their game, but that's just a good matchup.
Yeah, and we'll go there last because there's the most to talk about in that game. So the next one to touch on, I think, is Bengals Bills, and this was shocking. I thought it was a shocking game. I know that the Bengals show up in the postseason. And I know that their defensive coordinator, whose name escapes me at the moment, really knows how to scheme. Like, if there is a DC that I think could shut down any offense in the league, it's their DC. And I don't even know his name off the top of my head. But like what they do on a week in, week out basis, especially as it comes to the playoffs over the past 2-3 years, is dominate people. The hottest offenses in the league. Josh Allen looked like a different player altogether on Sunday. It was nuts.
Yeah, and you want to give credit. The defensive coordinator for the Bengals is Lou Anarumo, I believe.
That's right. That's right.
And you want to give credit to the defense, but at a certain point, you wonder too with the Bills, like, what is the thing that's holding them back? Is it that Josh Allen's not as great in, snowy, cold weather games? Is it that, they choke in the playoffs? Is it a him thing? Is it a team thing? Is it a McDermott thing? Like, right, you point to coaches. We'll talk about one later, but at least in my world, like the Sean Paytons of the world, is people are like, yeah, we know you're a good coach, but how come you don't get it done that often then, right?
Right.
Like maybe McDermott's in that territory. So no, definitely credit to the Bengals that we've mentioned in the past. They were clearly upper echelon, but it was, can they break into the Chiefs Bills class? And they did then, and
Yeah,
they might do
I
it
would
again.
say
They
they
did it
even
last year. They're doing it again.
smashed into that class. They are here, and we talked about it last night. Like, we are at the doorstep, but we might even be in the door right now. We're not fully in the room, but we're in the door of the new AFC quarterback era, right? Like, we had Manning, we had Brady, we had Breeze to an extent, right? So we're starting to figure out. I think that we have the Brady guy in this equation figured out as Patrick Mahomes. Who's going to emerge as the Peyton Manning of the two between Josh Allen and Joe Burrow, and who's going to be the Phillip Rivers? Because right now it's looking like Joe Burrow is the Peyton Manning, and Josh Allen is quickly becoming the Phillip Rivers. Is that maybe an over exaggeration? Yes, these guys are 3 and 4 years into their career. They still have another 10 plus 12 plus years to play in this league. That is, we have just a small sample size of what we're actually going to get from these guys. But in trying to figure out this puzzle and trying to figure out this equation, like who arises in supremacy there. But look, Joe Burrow, besides for his rookie year, has been to the AFC Championship game every year of his career. And the only reason maybe that he didn't make it his first year is because he had a torn ACL.
That would be a reason to hold someone back.
Yeah.
Last thoughts on this for me. There was the complication that thankfully we avoided the talk about, which was that the Bills and Chiefs would have played on a neutral site. If they had met, they would have played in Atlanta, I think, right? If they had met in the AFC Championship in the
Those
wake
refunds.
in the wake of the postponed Bengals Bills game from earlier in the season. I did see a tweet though that made me laugh. It's from a guy with Fansided, and he said, Chiefs fans would say the fix is in. The NFL doesn't want its new golden boy Joe Burrow to fail. Bills fans would tell you the fix is in. The NFL doesn't want its new golden boy Patrick Mahomes to fail. And Bengals fans would say the fix is in. The NFL doesn't want its new golden boy Josh Allen to fail. So there's this weird rivalry between divisions with the three budding superstar quarterbacks at the moment. Maybe somebody joins that, but it does feel like a 3-horse race. And yeah, Josh Allen is slipping to third is what it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, phenomenal in the regular season and
Sure.
just doesn't figure it out in the postseason. I mean, he looked fine in that game against Miami, but also it was way closer than it should have been.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, and so maybe it's something where Josh Allen is more like Aaron Rodgers, right? Like phenomenal regular seasons,
Sure.
all the acumen you could hope for, and then as the postseason rolls around, just not as good as they were. Again, super small sample size. We've seen the best of Josh Allen for 2 years, and he's got another 12 years to play in this football league. We don't know how things will evolve, but for right now, like the short-sighted,
It's
easy,
a developing trend, right? It's a
exactly.
developing trend.
Yeah. The other thing too on this game, my last point is Joe Burrow is probably the coldest white guy in the NFL. He's got so much swagger, and it just oozes out of him. Poise under pressure, and poise in moments where people are trying to get his emotions out of him and egg him on to do something dumb, and he just won't do it, right? And when he proves everybody wrong after staying silent and grinding and doing the things he needs to do, he shows up and he's able to say cool ass shit to Michelle Tafoya, like, better send those refunds, in just the most Joe cool, melancholy way possible. Like, I just ripped your heart out, Buffalo. Better get your money back. Like, it's one of the reasons why he's one of my favorite players, man.
Sure.
He might be my favorite player, period. Point blank.
Yeah, that'd be reasonable. LSU, right?
Go Tigers. Again, I've said it on this podcast before. I'll say it again. He's one of the reasons why I pay attention to college football now, because that 2019 LSU Tigers team was so enthralling, and he was such a fun player to watch that I was like, I think I like that guy a lot. I think I'm going to follow his career very closely. Final game from the divisional weekend was Cowboys and 49ers, and it ended the way a lot of people thought it would end, in heartbreak for the Cowboys. Now, we could sit here and break down the entire game. We could try to attribute certain things as to why the Cowboys lost, or we can jump ahead to the final play of the game, which was my low-hanging fruit for the week, and the silliest thing I've ever seen on a football field.
No, not the silliest ever, right?
Okay, second silliest, because Ramondre Stevenson and the pitchback that happened earlier this year
Oh, I
was
forgot about that actually. Yeah,
was the
that's pretty
silliest
silly.
thing ever. But
Oh,
I mean, just a crazy moment. So you play 18 weeks of football. You play in a wild card game. So you technically have played 19 weeks of football with your bye incorporated in there. You get to the final play of your season. It's on the line. You got to put everything out there. And what you draw up, even after a timeout, is that Zeke Elliott is going to snap the ball, and you're going to put all of your offensive linemen out wide on the line as if they are eligible receivers. Then, once the ball is snapped and Ezekiel Elliott gets steamrolled, you throw an 8-yard slant route that gets stopped immediately. That was the best you had? It was crazy.
yeah. Okay. We talked about this a little bit. I'm pro creative plays. I've
Me
discussed it in the
too.
past. And sometimes they don't work, but you have to take the bad ones to get the good ones. The only thing that I would say was drastically wrong with this play was lining Zeke up as the center, because that goes in the video exactly how you expect, which is he snaps the ball and essentially an up lineman or a close linebacker gets a little bit of momentum and just runs him over, pancakes him on his back, right?
The guy
So
started 4 yards off the line of scrimmage, and Zeke stood up and was like, uh-oh.
right. So besides that, though, the rest of it I don't actually have a problem with, and I feel like I want to know. Okay, so what play do you think they run, and more specifically, what % chance of winning do you think they have if they run that play?
I just think if you look at the way that the play was drawn up,
Mm-hmm.
and you get that ball to Kevontae Turpin, he makes the catch. There's nobody behind him for him to even pitch to. So you're hoping that he makes it all the way across the field to the other side where other guys presumably are now behind. He's coming this way and other guys are presumably here, and he pitches it back. Well, he's dragged. I didn't like the way that it was drawn up. There's so many different ways to do that. You can do a screenplay and have everybody cut the other way and at least have guys that, like, there's so many different ways you can draw up the hook and ladder. Undoubtedly, this was the first thing on the list for Mike McCarthy. This was hook and ladder, and they spent a ton of time getting it together and making sure that it was installed in the offense. And that's how it went. And, like, to me, that is a fireable offense, especially considering the fact that the Cowboys have been terrible in the playoffs. Even if that was that McCarthy's second year, both years that he's been there have ended in the most mind-numbing ways possible. Because if you remember 2 years ago, it was the pass to the middle of the field with no timeouts, and the guy didn't get out of bounds, and they had to run up and try to spike the ball, and the ref got in the way. Either way, they would have lost that game. And then this year, it's, I don't know, a play from Matt Nagy's book of tricks.
So that's the difference to me, though, is the previous one is there was a path that like gets you close and can set up a play. Because a Hail Mary is a fine play to run if you're in range. And if you're not, then you have to do some sort of trick play, right? And so it's mismanaging timeouts and mismanaging like where in the field you're supposed to be and stuff. Like those are actual problems that are a detriment to your win probability, right? Maybe you only had a 5% chance of getting it done and you dropped it to a 3 or a 3 to a 1. And I'm just making the numbers up. There are certainly ways to quantify it that I don't know. But in this case with the 49ers last night, their win probability was approaching 0 to begin with. So it's sort of a, we got nothing else. Let's at least try and do something. They won't know what we're doing. Because did you know what the play was going to be when you saw them line up? Certainly
No.
Not. Nobody knew what they were doing.
Screen behind one of the linemen, and they would try to have some sort of caravan in front.
Yeah, and that, I mean, there probably are better ways to use the formation they used. But that's where I don't really take as much issue with the play. It still doesn't make sense to take one of your Zeke. Weird to call him a pass catcher, but one of your actual skill position players just
a
out
ball
of the
handler,
play,
right? Like
Yeah,
a ball handler.
right. I don't know why he's just suddenly removed and run over, but otherwise, yeah, you go for something. And this game otherwise was close
competitive to a
throughout.
point.
Yeah. It wasn't like the Cowboys got blown out.
Another thing you have to point out is Dalton Schultz at the end has been so clutch for this team all year, especially down the stretch. Had 2 touchdown catches in the wild card game. How do you have that big of a brain fart in that big of a moment that you don't get your other foot down when there's nobody around? It costs the team, 15 yards in a position where if you're 15 yards further up the field, you can at least attempt a Hail Mary instead of whatever kind of backwards ass backyard bullshit play they try to draw up.
Right. That's more, and that goes back to the what happened the previous year criticism that I have, which is those setup plays are more important often than the last play we remember, because the last play, you're just throwing a dart from a mile away and hoping that it hits something, but you can slowly move closer to that point of aim if you can set it up right. So no, I would actually take almost more issue with the fact that, Dalton Schultz give your team a better chance than what they had.
So the NFC Championship game, obviously Niners, Eagles. The AFC, it's Bengals and Chiefs. Quick predictions?
Like just score predictions, winner. What are you looking for?
Just
here?
winners.
Anything?
Just quick
Winners.
predictions.
I really, I kind of don't want it to be the Bengals. I'm gonna pick the Chiefs and Chiefs Niners. Run it back from 4 years ago. 3 years ago?
I've got Bengals Niners in this one. I think the Bengals come out and absolutely slaughter them.
What's that? That's a rematch of what year did they play?
Ooh, sometime in the is it 1990 Super Bowl? 91, 90?
I thought it was the 80s. 89.
89.
Yeah. All right. Super Bowl rematch. If the 49ers win, it's a Super Bowl rematch, no matter what.
Oh, that's very true. Coach of the week for me goes to Mike McCarthy. And I ask this, I'm sorry, the Nate Hackett coach of the week goes to Mike McCarthy. And I ask this as a tangential question. Has, outside of Andy Reid, has there ever been a super successful fat coach? Think about
in the NFL?
Yep. Think about it. Outside of Andy Reid, I don't know that there has ever been a super fat successful head coach.
That's tough, I guess. I don't really think of coaches in this frame, but I mean, when I think of ones that fit, they weren't great
Charlie Weiss, terrible.
at the NFL level. Are we talking just any football?
No, at the NFL level.
Yeah, I was gonna say Charlie Weiss had some fine years in college.
Romeo Crennel,
Rex
God rest
Ryan.
his soul. Rex Ryan. Was Rob Ryan ever a head coach?
He might have been for a little bit. Wait, did you say God rest his soul to Romeo Crennel?
Isn't he dead?
I don't think so.
Or was that no, who was
Isn't he still like in the
they
Texans
crowned his
organization?
ass? Who was that? No,
Which one? Who? I don't know who you're talking
the
about.
Monday Night Miracle. It was the Bears and the Cardinals, and their head coach at the time was like,
Dennis Green.
Dennis Green.
Yeah, okay. I was gonna
was
say, I'm like,
another-
Romeo Crennel, I'm pretty sure was snubbed in this weird Texans saga of like, we want Josh McCown to be the coach. Like, I'm pretty sure he was involved in all that. Yeah, I guess you're right. But I don't really know for sure. I mean, also when you think about it, how many majorly successful head coaches have there been in the last 20 years? Probably not a ton. The coaching carousel spins so fast and involves so many teams.
It's just one of my observations that I've
Is
made
Mike
over
Tomlin,
years of
is Mike
watching.
Tomlin a big guy?
No,
I feel like I always see him wearing like a sweatshirt and a coat, so it's hard to tell.
no, he's not a big guy.
No, he's not. He's
But
not.
I've got my eyes locked on Brian Daboll. Be careful there, but there's. I'm telling you. I'm telling you, and you're right. There haven't been a ton of super successful head coaches, but outside of Andy Reid in the history of the NFL, I don't know that there's ever been. Oh, you know what? No, I take that back. Mike Holmgren.
Oh yeah, he definitely had a. I would say
Successful head
definitely had a
coach.
good career.
So maybe outside of those two.
All right. Again, I'm trying to remember his size and also teeters on the like. Was he? Would you consider him very successful? Jeff Fisher?
He wasn't fat.
I didn't think so, but I'm trying to think of like.
All right. Anybody out there listening who can think of a fat head coach? That
John
was
Fox?
super
Was John
successful?
Fox big?
No,
Was he a big guy?
no.
I don't know, man. I don't think of it like this. I'm trying to
putting it out
brainstorm.
there. I'm putting it out there for everybody. If you think of a fat head coach that was actually successful at the NFL level, besides Andy Reid and Mike Holmgren, leave it in the comments and prove us wrong, because I don't think that I'm wrong on this. But we'll move ahead in the show now, where I do actually have um, a grinding my gear that is. It stems off of football this week.
Okay.
There is a constituency of people, a large swath of individuals who think that the government, the NFL, and the Bills have all joined forces to fake that DeMar Hamlin is alive.
What?
Yes,
Wait, wasn't he at the game?
he was at the game,
We
but
saw it.
but the conspiracy theorists are telling us, because the shots of him during the game were with him with like a is it a balaclava? I think the kids now are
Sure,
calling them
just like
shiesties.
a ski mask type thing.
Yeah, yeah. He had one of those on, and you couldn't really see his face in any of the shots they used of him. Everybody's saying that DeMar Hamlin is actually dead, and they used a stunt man or a hold-in guy, stand-in guy, even though his mother and child were at the game with him.
That is like so gross. I can't
Ev-
believe that that's even a notable enough thing to have appeared on any time. That's so disgusting.
Well, it's disgusting because, like, you know that it's just for clicks. Like, there is some scumbag out there living wherever the hell. I always assume LA is sharing like an apartment with 8 people, where they are just making shit up for clicks. They're like, oh yeah, they used all the iconography. He was holding up the threes and did the heart thing, but the heart actually looked like a triangle, like the Illuminati. And he's not really alive. They just used a stand-in for him. So that's grinding my gears, because that legitimately pissed me off.
That's horrible. I mean, we even kind of talked about the first go around with it, right? Is like if you're gonna just say stuff to try and generate buzz, like at least just say positive stuff and just like hop on a train. Like we talked about, there were probably so many NFL media people that felt very sincerely like horrible for what happened in the initial injury. But there were probably a lot of people that also just kind of knew what to say, which is again fine. Like if you say the thing that's okay, I don't know, man. I don't even like talking about this. This is like so bad. I
Right,
had
and
not heard anything about this.
I hate to bring additional platform to it, and not like acting like, oh, like our podcast is somehow
I'm not
bigger than
amplifying it, but
what it is. Like, we get what we get, but like it's still like
no, I
I
can't
had
even like come up with analysis on it. That's just really horrible.
you can't. But I had to bring it up because it's just something that, like, I feel the need to speak out against, because it's stupid and there's dumb people out there and there's awful people out there, and that was very clearly shown by anybody who was like, "Oh yeah, this makes sense." It's like
Yep.
dummies, a bunch of dummies. Low hanging fruit. Do you have any, sir?
Yeah, I've got one.
I do
Um,
too.
it's not a vendetta that I personally hold, but I think the general American sports watching public holds, and that's the resentment against the title teams. And a lot of them haven't gotten it done in a long time. And the Cowboys are just another reminder, in addition to that list, that like they are the champion team, they're America's team, they're on all the primetime games, and they haven't made a Super Bowl in a very, very long time. And I was thinking about it, and I'm like, you know what? The Lakers have one title in the last decade. It's like the Yankees have a couple in the
2009.
century, yeah, but none in the last decade. And then, however you want to twist it, whether you go with the more modern one of the Red Wings, who haven't gotten it done a whole lot, I think they had one in the 21st century, or if you go with the Leafs or the Canadians, I mean, the Canadians haven't even they made a Stanley Cup, but they haven't won one since the 90s, I don't think, and they've got like 24. So it just if we're gonna hop on the Cowboys, it just reminds me of all the, your stereotypical generic sports fan who likes to brag about their team's success. And you're like, oh, who are your favorite teams? And they're like Cowboys, Yankees, Lakers. Like,
Duke basketball.
we're so far removed from this. Came into my head as a product of talking to you about. I don't actually really care about the Cowboys winning because they haven't done anything significant in my lifetime. So I actually kind of feel bad for them more than I root against them. But then I'm like, wait a second. There's a lot of these teams that even you look at the Lakers, who are the only ones in the group who have won very recently. And that's the asterisk season. That's the bubble year where people don't even want to count it, right?
Yeah.
So
More than
no,
any other sport, they didn't want to count that one.
right. And so that I just was thinking, man, these traditional title teams really haven't done anything and don't feel like they're on the brink of it either. I guess the Yankees were pretty close this year, and the Canadians 2 years ago, but that's it.
Bravo for knowing anything about hockey. You get star points for today.
Thank you.
My low-hanging fruit is Stan Van Gundy. Now, I don't know if you saw this interaction that he had on Twitter with Kevin Durant,
Oh, no.
but
I gotta look this up.
Stan had tweeted, I'll give you the whole interaction right here.
All right.
Stan had tweeted, 90s NBA teams had just a trainer and a strength coach. They practiced more often and harder and played more back-to-back games. Teams now have huge medical and performance staffs and value rest over practice, yet injuries and games missed are way up. Something's not working. To which Kevin Durant replied, Stan spittin'. And Stan Van Gundy replied, no, I'm not criticizing players. I'm saying that we are getting something wrong in how we prepare and train players. We can't do anything about injuries like yours. He fell on your leg. But all of these groin, hamstring injuries, etc., shouldn't be happening as much as they are. Kevin Durant responds, Stan, I agree with you.
I was really didn't know where this was going because I'm like, I generally like Stan Van Gundy's takes. I
Me
follow him on
too.
Twitter. I feel like he presents a nice modern look at like some for guys who were in the old guard NBA. Like I like what he says. And Kevin Durant, of course, is a social media icon. So I'm like, I don't think I know where this is going. Oh, Stan. Oh, he doesn't know
Yeah.
spitting.
Yeah, she says, Stan, I agree with you, LOL. And
Oh.
somebody later came in and said, spitting means you're speaking facts, Stan. And Stan replies, I had no idea. So
Oh.
just kind of a fun moment, one of those like generational disconnects between player and obviously former coach. But I thought was hilarious and needed to be shared. So that's my low-hanging fruit. Stan
That
Van
is good.
Gundy is now smarter and more streetwise because of his interaction on Twitter.
Yeah.
Coming to the end of the show, we did this pretty efficiently and quickly today. We're only at an hour and 2 minutes, so let's hang some banners.
You go first on this one because I don't even know that I actually figured mine out yet. Whoops.
I have mine figured out as of this afternoon. We
Okay.
hang a banner for the spokes candies of M&M or M&Ms.
Oh yeah.
Who have officially been shelved. Now, there's been some conversation in recent months over the spokes candies, specifically them adding a purple M&M who was supposed to be more representative of obese culture, I think. Maybe not obese culture, but just the making sure that all body shapes are recognized is the right way to say that and the way that I meant it to begin with. And they also made the green M&M less sexy.
That was the word people were saying. I remember that one. Yep.
Which, I mean, if you're turned on by a candy, cool.
Didn't they just like change her high heels to like sneakers or something? Wasn't that the whole thing?
That's correct. And I think they removed her lipstick.
Oh wow.
So after all the back and forth and all the changes and such, I even think that they made the green M&M like lope into a somewhat lesbian relationship with a brown M&M. Like there has been a lot of talk and
Dude,
HR
you and I go on
around.
very different websites. I'll tell you that much.
I am on Twitter.
Sure.
I promise. After all the conversation, Eminem puts out a press release today. M&Ms, not the rapper, the candies. And they say, America, let's talk. In the last year, we've made some changes to our beloved spokes candies. We weren't sure if anyone would even notice. And we definitely didn't think it would break the internet. But now we get it. Even a candy shoes can be polarizing.
Oh yeah,
which was the last thing M&Ms wanted, since we're all about bringing people together. Good message.
Mhm.
Therefore, we have decided to take an indefinite pause from the spokes candies. In their place, we are proud to introduce a spokesperson America can agree on, the beloved Maya Rudolph. We are confident Miss Rudolph will champion the power and fun to create a world where everyone feels they belong. M&Ms.
That's a very, very nicely written. And you know what? This feels like this could definitely fall under the intercepted at the goal line category of people being angry at things that they really don't need to be angry about. I'll have to check out the trending because now I'm curious, but I hadn't looked into it, and now I want to know what the people are saying, and I imagine it's some horrible things they're saying about M&M's as a company and how they're pandering to the wrong parts of the country and things like that. But I guess that's good because we're also getting younger, right? The red and yellow M&Ms make the most appearances in M&M ads, and both voice actors are very old. They're in like their 60s or 70s because the red M&M is voice actor Billy West, and the yellow M&M is J.K. Simmons. So let's give them a little break and get younger, right?
I'm down with that. I also think that it's going to be extremely sad come Christmas time when we don't get the yellow and red M&M fainting when they see Santa.
Oh, but that's such an old commercial. I wonder if maybe they're just not putting out new M&M
It
related
is
content. I
a,
guess we'll have to
but
see.
I don't know, but it is a harbinger of Christmas. Like you have to have it in order for Christmas to happen. It's kind of like Easter and the Cadbury egg commercial where they've got like all the different animals trying to say,
Mhm.
uh, I don't even know what they're trying to say. Is it a
I
chicken? Are they trying to yeah, it's a
Say
chicken.
chicken?
Yeah.
What's the one, the Hershey Kisses do the jingle bells or
Oh
Carol of the
yeah.
Bells or whatever? That's a big one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
So
we've got almost
hang up
exactly 12 months to wait for that. 11.
hang a banner for the sexy green M&M and all
Oh,
the other ones too.
all of the M&Ms. Yeah, come on, man. Now I really know what your angle on this was. Okay, I did have mine. I just wanted to make sure that I had some of the information right before I went, so I was stalling for time. Mine is definitely a more dour one, but also one of those like in death celebration of life type thing. But certainly a big loss in our world living in Chicagoland. The passing recently
Mhm.
of Lynn Bramer. So that would be where I'm going to hang a banner. Has been a voice in Chicago radio was a race voice in Chicago radio for 45 years, and at XRT for more than 30 of those, I think. So I definitely remember 93.1, you tune in and in the mornings. He always had the Lynn's Bin. I remember those with the like more kind of deep dives on different musical topics and stuff. And definitely was an impactful enough figure that pretty much everybody throughout Chicagoland, I know Rahm Emanuel said some stuff about it. The Cubs put some stuff, like everybody was deeply saddened by Lynn Bramer's passing. He was battling cancer for couple years. I
Yeah,
think.
and
So,
I can't say that I have any specific stories or impacts from Lynn Bramer on my life, but I can tell you, like somebody like that who was in a market like Chicago for 45 years, inevitably has an impact on you, right? Like the way that they influence other people inevitably gets bestowed onto you, right? Somebody that I've worked with and for and admired the work that they do, probably in some way, small shape or form, admired the way Lynn Bramer did his shows and took something from him. And so if you're from Chicagoland and you do radio, there's a small chance, there's probably larger than small chance that some of what you do is inspired by what Lynn Bramer did with his career. I do think that it's um very sad, but also very courageous the way that he did go out. So he's been battling cancer for quite some time and was off of XRT for quite some time,
yeah.
and decided I would assume I just want to be on radio. I'll go when I go, and I just want to go do what I love to do until I can't do it. And that's, I think, very brave and very valiant, and shows how much he loved what he did.
Yeah. So definitely a cool person, cool figure. A lot of us probably can even like think of his voice in the head, but definitely hanging a banner there.
And a good one to hang. And that's where we draw the line on episode 19. A good one. And
Think so?
obviously, we ran through it without the third member of our crew, Tyler Witt, but he was here in spirit as always. We should, when he's not here, just get like another computer to enter the chat with just a bear logo.
Yeah, I'll try. I could like put my phone in it or something and just have a third call it Tyler Witt and put like a gone fishing sign up or something.
Yeah.
I'm looking though. We're like 20 minutes shorter than we normally are. So do you have anything you want to get off your chest, or are we like just wrapping up? This is kind of weird.
I can give you one more thing.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it. This is some bonus content, bonus footage.
Bonus content. So the other night, my girlfriend Nikki and I were laying in bed. We're scrolling through TikTok. Oh, chill out. Scrolling through TikTok, and we stumble across this video of a monkey on a construction site, and he's acting as though like he's directing traffic and stuff on the construction site. And I'm sitting there. Actually, hold on a second. Nick.
Oh, this is super live.
Nikki.
I'm already so intrigued by the premise of this. I want to know, like, was the monkey actually conducting? Was the monkey employed?
I don't know. It had a hard hat on.
The monkey getting paid? Was it Curious George?
It might have been. She's gonna tell us exactly what. Come here. We got to talk about the monkey.
Yeah, I want to know.
I'm on the
I
podcast.
and the people
We're
want to
on
know.
the podcast right now.
Okay, I'm not being filmed.
Huh? Okay, well, just come here.
Off camera appearance. That's fine.
Come here. You have to. She's off camera. Come close enough that you can put the thing in your ear.
The voice
Here you go.
of Nikki.
You have to be able to hear Jack. I need you to tell us exactly what you meant. Like, so we've talked about the monkey in the TikTok, right?
Yeah.
And he was on the construction site. He was waving the people in, and then you had a very interesting take, which was, and say it into the microphone.
I really don't like monkeys.
You're way too quiet. You got to get into the microphone. Get into the microphone.
Okay.
She doesn't want to be filmed.
I do not like monkeys. I feel like they are entitled for sure.
Whoa! Oh my gosh! What does this have to do with construction?
If you think about like every monkey video you've seen, or like any kind of pet monkey, they are spoiled, rotten, and they're annoying. They're entitled.
Now that you mention it, like I do, all of the funny monkey videos are definitely them just like, I don't know, being kind of, entitled's a good way to put it. I'll have to think about that when I see this. Forget about the entitlement and all that. I want to know, do we know the truth behind this monkey video, or was it just was there more explained? All I heard is that he's conducting traffic at a construction site.
I feel like
literally, that's how short it was. It was just a spider monkey.
Cliffhanger.
It was like a spider monkey conducting traffic on a construction site. And she looked at me. She's like, I hate monkeys. They're entitled.
Wait, okay. So whose TikTok was it?
Mine.
Well, there we go. Now that makes sense. I was wondering if it was like maybe it's just an over inundation of monkey related TikToks. You're like, I can't deal with the monkeys anymore. Or this is a long time brewing.
No, it's just one of those random like, oh, I hate monkeys. And he's like, what? What's going on?
All right, last question. Does this apply to like even celebrity? Like, you ever see Night at the Museum? You ever see those movies? The monkey who's a sidekick.
Yes.
Like, is he on the hate list too?
No, I actually kind of liked him.
Okay, all right. As long as a few can get through, that's all.
I feel like TikTok kind of ruined it for me.
Really?
Because I've seen a lot of monkey videos.
TikTok ruined monkeys.
They
just
TikTok monkeys canceled.
Yeah, they just annoy me. I don't know what it is. I'm like, there's something up with these damn monkeys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that actually, you do raise an interesting point. I'll have to dig deeper.
Are you a fan of Harambe?
I am.
Okay,
Harambe wasn't a monkey though.
He was a gorilla.
Part of
aren't gorillas
species.
apes? Aren't gorillas apes?
Aren't they all apes?
No, but I think there's a distinction, difference between monkeys and apes. I think
I love this conversation.
This is bonus content on episode 19. We were going to wrap up. This is the bonus content.
I wanted more. The easiest way to distinguish between a monkey or an ape is if it has a tail.
Have you done your conversation starter yet?
About
a monkey or a gorilla and a bear?
Oh, who would win between a gorilla and a bear? No, we have not done that.
Okay, that's another spiral. Okay,
that we need Tyler Witt for that one. I think.
Yeah.
We have to wait for that. We can't do that without him.
That would feel bad. All right. Well, hey, thanks for stopping by, though. I appreciate the monkey takes and the opening of eyes.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
All right, girlfriend Nikki, everybody.
Yay!
Who hates monkeys?
That actually is crazy when she points it out, though. I'm like, yeah, they're really funny monkey videos, but they're all kind of jerks.
Yeah. Also, I have to point out, and then we'll wrap up. It's astonishing how many people don't know that you have to be close to a microphone for it to pick you up. Like all the time, like at work, like we have people come in all the time. We have people come in all the time, right? We're doing like interviews for like community events that are happening, and representatives come in and we talk about it and whatever, right? And like people talk like this into the microphone. And I'm like, ma'am, you have to get into the microphone. Like you see me talking like this, you see the other guy talking like this, and you're going to talk like this. That's not how it works.
I've never ever been on live radio before.
Apparently, you have to put the microphone back to your face.
I love those kids' videos. I'm gonna fall in that rabbit hole, man.
And this is a full circle moment on episode 19 of the Hangin Banners podcast. So much fun. That's Jack Coachman. I'm Ryan Sartori. Tyler Witt was here in spirit. He's the third member of this podcast. We love him. He's getting ready for the XFL season right now. Hopefully we get him back next week. But with that said, we're getting out of here. Remember that monkeys are spoiled rotten and are annoying and entitled. And we'll see you next week for episode 20 of the Hangin Banners podcast. But for now, we say peace.
Peace.
See you guys.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot for that look into sports, Brian. Yeah. And when we come back, we'll have one final look at weather. Stay tuned.